The year is 2025. The United States, once a beacon of democracy and global power, is no more. The nation lies fractured, a shadow of its former self. How did this once great nation crumble? The seeds of discord were sown long before the final collapse. Political polarization had been reaching a boiling point for decades. The gap between the wealthy elite and the struggling working class had become a chasm. Social media, once a tool for connection, had become a weapon of misinformation and division. Trust in institutions, from the government to the media, had eroded. The American people, once united by shared ideals, were now deeply divided along political, social and economic lines. The stage was set for disaster. It was only a matter of time before the nation fractured under the weight of its own internal conflicts. The warning signs were there. The economy, long the bedrock of American power, had been showing signs of strain. The national debt had ballooned to unsustainable levels. Inflation soared, eroding the purchasing power of the working class. Jobs were being automated, leaving millions unemployed and desperate. The social safety net, already frayed, was stretched to its breaking point. The government, paralyzed by gridlock and infighting, seemed unable or unwilling to address the growing crisis. The wealthy elite, insulated from the struggles of ordinary Americans, continued to amass wealth while the middle class dwindled. The American dream, once a promise of prosperity and upward mobility, had become an empty slogan for many. The economic foundation of the nation was crumbling, and with it the hopes and aspirations of millions. The final straw came in the form of a contested election. Accusations of voter fraud and foreign interference ran rampant. Both sides dug in their heels, refusing to accept the legitimacy of the outcome. The political rhetoric, already heated, reached a fever pitch. Protests erupted in cities across the country, fueled by anger, fear, and distrust. The media, instead of calming the waters, only fanned the flames with sensationalized reporting and partisan bias. Social media became an echo chamber, amplifying the most extreme voices and pushing people further apart. The fragile peace that had held the nation together finally shattered. Words had become weapons, and the nation was tearing itself apart from the inside out. Section 4. A nation divided life after the fall. The collapse was swift and brutal. The federal government, already weakened by years of dysfunction, simply ceased to function. The Constitution, once the bedrock of American democracy, became a meaningless document. States, left to fend for themselves, withdrew into themselves. Some attempted to form regional alliances, while others embraced isolationism. The once united nation was now a patchwork of independent entities, each struggling to survive in the wake of the collapse. For ordinary Americans, life had become a daily struggle for survival. Food and fuel shortages were commonplace. Utilities flickered and failed. Law and order were maintained by local militias, or not at all. Those who could afford it fled to safer havens abroad, leaving behind a nation in chaos. The American dream had become a nightmare. Section 5. Hope and despair. Reactions to the collapse. The collapse of the United States was met with a mixture of shock, disbelief, and a chilling sense of inevitability. Some clung to the hope that this was just a temporary setback, that the nation would somehow find a way to reunite and rebuild. They formed resistance movements, fighting to preserve the ideals of democracy and freedom. Others, disillusioned and broken, simply accepted their fate. They focused on survival, adapting to the harsh realities of a world without the United States. And then there were those who saw opportunity in the chaos. Warlords and strongmen rose to power, exploiting the fear and uncertainty to establish their own fiefdoms. Criminal elements flourished in the absence of law enforcement. The American spirit, once characterized by resilience and optimism, was now fractured, a reflection of the broken nation itself.